Thank you very much, Tim, and welcome everybody. So as Tim mentioned, we are an exploration company, and we are trying to find, there we go. We're basically trying to find new nickel districts, as opposed to a lot of work on an existing deposit. We didn't start that way. We started with a single showing on our Taylor Brook project, and we have now grown that up into, I would call it a setting, if you will, that we have a district scale geophysical target that correlates perfectly with the known mineralization and the known magmatic rocks that carry the mineralization. So it's a very, very exciting story, and it's taken us about 2 years to get here. Our second property is called Florence Lake. It's a Cambalda or a Raglan style of mineralization. It's in Labrador, and that one's an ex-Falconbridge project. Again, we have the entire district, and we're hoping to prove up that it truly is going to be one of North America's new nickel mining districts. In both cases, what got us started, though, was that they had shown that they had high grades, and that was critical to us. We made the decision from day one that we were going to try to find high-grade nickel sulfides. This is what we look like, 140 million shares outstanding. I know we're trading a bit lower, so the market cap's low. But you know, we hope to build on all of that in the very, very near future. We've, as I said, we've been in business now for about 2.5 years. We've done a lot of work. We, you know, that is our motto, is that everything we can possibly spend goes into the ground. We are aggressively advancing both these properties. Our G&A is very low. You know, so that is what we're trying to do here. Newfoundland and Labrador, it's a great jurisdiction. So it's of course home to Voisey's Bay, which is one of the world's greatest nickel mining camps. And the Wabash Labrador City area is again world-class world-class iron ore mines. It's ranked very, very highly. It's a mining-friendly jurisdiction, a resource-friendly jurisdiction, really. I mean, between oil and gas and forestry and mining and seafood, you know, that's its economy. Something that's happened that's very, very good is that in Labrador, at the feasibility level now, is a new road. And should that go in, it'll pass within about 10 kilometers of our Florence Lake property, and also make Postville the major port in Labrador. So this would be enormous for our Florence Lake property. Presently, it's helicopter accessible. This chart sort of goes to the crux of the matter. You know, we've put this together. You've seen other versions of it, but the shaded area there, that is essentially what historically has been economic to mine. And that there's a few deposits in there that, of course, are well inside the shaded area that are very, very topical right now. Kabanga in Tanzania, Tamarack in Minnesota, Eagle's Nest in Northern Ontario, and you're about to hear about Monago and the Northern Manitoba area in the next talk. You know, present nickel prices are bad, of course, but most of these deposits and mining camps, they just power through all this sort of stuff. So that was really our idea here, is that if we can find one, it's a slam dunk. It absolutely won't matter what commodity prices are. These things are so good that you know, they go into production. I don't know if you heard, but Glencore announced yesterday, I believe, that new deposits going on stream at Raglan, another 20 years of mine life. You know, so it started with 25 million tons 25 years ago or more, and the reserves are larger now to this day. So once you get into one of these districts, that's the great thing, is that you continue to find more and more deposits. You have to be at the edge of a craton, though. This is really, really important. The edge of continental shield areas. This is where subduction occurs and all sorts of magmatic activity. And this is what produces the world's great nickel mining camps. This is Taylor Brook now. So Taylor Brook's on the island of Newfoundland. Very, very good access, as you'll see. And this is the discovery outcrop. And the geologist there, her name's Dawn Evans Lambswood. She consults to us. And she was at Voisey's Bay right from day one. Now that rusty colored rock that you see there, that is the Leyden showing. It grades about 3% nickel over 2 meters. The dark stuff there is the semi-massive and massive sulfides. The orange stuff is the disseminated sulfides. And this has really been, it's been the focus of everything we've done in the sense that we regard it as the key. We know that, or we think that Leyden is very, very distal in the system. But still, it generates very, very high grades and high tenors. And this is very, very important because it's showing that our district, if you will, is capable of producing high grade or grade mineralization. Infrastructure, as I mentioned, is very, very good for this project. So we can fly from Toronto to Deer Lake in 2.5 hours. Then it's about an hour up to our camp. The camp is a permanent camp. It's owned by a fellow named Chris Verbitsky, who was the co-discoverer, of Voisey's Bay. He's a big shareholder of Churchill's and a big fan of what we're doing. So this is just fabulous in terms of access and keeping costs down. That big power line you see, that's coming down from Labrador, from Churchill Falls. So we have power within 10 kilometers of the property. Drillers are in Deer Lake. Our laboratories in Springdale. So it's very, very cost-effective exploration. Geologically, this was one of the things that got us excited, is that we're at the edge of the Canadian Shield in Western Newfoundland there. It's mobile belts to the east of us, and it's shield rocks to the west of us. And the nickel showing was beside this enormous gabbro intrusive complex called the Taylor Brook Gabbro. It's a layered intrusive complex, but the mineralization was out in the older rocks, the 1.1 billion year old rocks. And really what our focus has been on from day one is showing that there's a relationship between the two, because it just didn't make any sense to me that you would have a nickel showing and then 600 million years later, a great big gabbro would come in right beside it. The other thing that's very exciting about the Taylor Brook Gabbro is that magnetically, its south lobe is very, very highly magnetic, whereas its north lobe is non-magnetic. This implies 2 different ages of intrusion. And as well, the largest known gravity anomaly in Western Newfoundland is centered over the south lobe. So we're looking at something that's very iron-rich and dense, adjacent to a nickel showing. So it was all adding up very, very nicely. We flew magnetics and VTEM first. The intent here was to find shallow conductors and to get a feel for the magnetic response for these rocks. You can see the Taylor Brook South Lobe, incredibly magnetic. And then sort of a sill-like structure going up to the north. Our soil sampling all along this thing, which is what we've been doing very, very hard during 2023, it is showing anomalies that are extending into the Taylor Brook South Lobe and up to the area of the Leyden showing. So again, it's all kind of hanging together. Show this map of Voisey's Bay. This, just so you can get used to the footprint there, but that's 140 million tons of economic high-grade ore in between the 5 deposits. And it spans about a 4-kilometer strike length. And this is all essentially one system that takes different forms in terms of the different ore bodies. Our system that we've now outlined is about 13 kilometers long, from Leyden back into the South Lobe, and that's what we've really discovered over this past winter. We discovered this, or we've proven or shown exactly where it is now by the use of resistivity surveys. Mobile MT is an airborne resistivity survey, and what it's showing you there in purple is a lovely conduit of magmatic rocks All of our drilling, when we drill these resistivity lows, we get gabbronorites, we get gabbros or norites. When we drill into the ultra-low features, that's when we're starting to find mineralization. So the MMT is showing us that we have a major dike-like feature running, from Leyden all the way down into the Taylor Brook South Lobe. These resistivity anomalies, they can be a variety of things, and one of the most common is they can be water. Water's a conductor. That's why you get out of pools in the lake when there's lightning. But in our case, and pleasingly, every hole that we've drilled into these resistivity lows have been magmatic intrusive rocks, or when we go into the ultra lows, then we are starting to see stringer sulfides. So we can trust this method, I guess, is what I'm saying, is that it's now definitively mapping, the conduit that we want to chase. Structurally, this is the common model for these magmatic deposits. The most important thing is that subhorizontal layer, the sill-like feature. That is what allows the nickel sulfides to settle. And what you're seeing on the right there is what Leyden looks like on a section. And we have sort of that, it's kind of like a hammer, a vertical hammer with a dike-like feature with those two orange clementines in it, and then a sill-like feature. What we now know with the larger survey, of course, is that sill is going over to the main conduit. So our drill hole there, number 35, which was drilled before Christmas, we were trying to, really do two things with one hole. Try to test two different areas of the structure with one hole. We hit about 300 meters of breccia. It's a sulfide cemented breccia. It's nickel bearing, copper bearing, cobalt bearing. So this is a very good sign, because we see this at Leyden as well. Leyden has a large area of breccia, and Tim has been there. It's quite impressive, rusty rock. It grades somewhere between 0.1 and 0.3% nickel, about the same in copper, and a little bit of cobalt. It's not of primary interest. It's of interest in the sense that it's enveloping the more massive mineralization. And what we found is that with our drilling this past winter, that we've hit these types of breccias in a variety of places. So the map on the right, you can see Leyden, and that the kind of pink feature there is the breccia. The red is the high grade. And because our CSAMT anomalies were so compelling and rather widespread, we cast a wide net with this drilling. We wanted to see how big Leyden could get. And what we found is that it didn't get much bigger. We found that as we moved south to holes 34 and 35, the breccia actually, although it was very impressive and a beautiful rock, and you're seeing pictures of it there, its metal content diminished. When we went to the south to hole 36, same thing. When we went even further to the west there, hole 37, where there was some compelling copper that we knew about, we found the same thing. The nickel dropped off. Copper's there, but copper's more mobile. So copper's telling you that it's distal in the system, whereas at Leyden we get up to 3-4% nickel, and we now know that is what's leading back to the main conduit. These are all the sections we drilled. We were targeting those orange features, which is the ultra-low resistivity features. And in every single case, sorry, I'm getting hoarse here, we hit gabbronorite rocks and these breccias. The breccias are the later intrusive, the mineralized intrusive, but as I mentioned, the further away from Leyden we got, the less nickel we got. So the last three holes were in the more immediate Leyden area. They all hit impressive mineralization. They all have borehole EM conductors that we're waiting to see those plates modeled. And all of it's going to tell us a little bit more about how big Leyden is and where it's going and what its potential is. But here you can kind of see what we're thinking is that Leyden is actually a sill off to the west of the main trend. As we follow the main trend back to the south, we already have two well-established drill targets at LIT and TBSL1. In both cases, these were soil anomalies that have led us to do more soil sampling and then geophysical surveys. So we have compelling targets already, but really our focus is going to be for a couple of months on comprehensive geophysics along this conduit. So we'll do traverses that will consist of CSAMT for more detail than the MMT gives us, IP for disseminated sulfide mineralization, and time domain EM for conductor plates. And collectively, along that 13 kilometers, you know, we will generate some more targets. I'm very confident of that. This is the detailed MT in the Leyden area, and this shows you a little bit more of the structure that we're dealing with. And Leyden, I believe, is it's an offset sill from the main TB magnetic trend, or magmatic trend, sorry, but it's also been some displacement. And this is why two of my holes in 2022, where I was trying to drill under the river and follow it down plunge, we actually lost it because of that fault that's coming through. So we now know where Leyden goes. It goes to where I say offset sill there. And collectively, those would both join up with the TB magnetic trend, which is the main trend that goes back to the south lobe. So even in this area, we have to do a bit more geophysics before we're confidently drilling, you know, conductor targets or IP targets. And that's kind of Taylor Brook, which I'm glad I finished up a little bit early because I wanted to show you a couple things about Florence Lake. But you know, this has been our flagship project, but we're advancing Florence Lake as we move on as well. Florence Lake, I mentioned, helicopter accessible, but this is where the road will be if that route is ultimately approved by the feasibility study. So you can see it's very close to our property. We've built a camp this past summer, so we can settle there in the spring and stay there through the fall and really get a lot done. It's different geology here. So now we're looking at very old greenstone belts. We control the area where the nickel deposits or the nickel showings have been found in the past. So in the north, it's all high grade. In the south, we actually have, I want to show you, this is the high grade from the north. Actually, that's the stuff that graded 2% over 11 meters. And I'm just flipping quickly. Here, this is recent geophysics. So this was flown by the government of Canada last summer. And what you're seeing there is in the north, you can see the komatiites, the volcanic rocks that contain the nickel very nicely. But in the south, we also have one of these great big, probably dunitic or peridotite rocks that there's only one rock sample out of it so far, and it graded 2,800 ppm, 0.28 nickel, which is what these things seem to grade. So, with that road going in, that kind of changes the dynamics of maybe a large low-grade thing also making sense. We're still much more interested in the high grade. I'd rather discover Raglan, or another Raglan, but this shows you just that Florence Lake also has enormous potential. So that's a real quick run through. I know it's very technical, and I'm sorry, but we're an exploration company, so everything we do right now is very technical. So.